Let's talk about a real political head-scratcher. Imagine a place with its own government, its own flag, and a really strong sense of national identity. I mean, it looks like a country, it acts like a country, but for most of the world, it just isn't. Today, we're diving into the fascinating puzzle that is Abkhazia.
And that brings us to the core question, doesn't it? It's a fundamental riddle of international relations. If a place has all the pieces of a country, but almost no one recognizes it, does it actually count? That's what we're going to try and unpack here.
So to really get a handle on Abkhazia's complicated situation today, we've got to rewind the clock. This whole dispute didn't just pop up overnight. Oh no, it was born out of some pretty intense conflict in history.
Okay, so the story really kicks off in the early 1990s. The Soviet Union is collapsing, and in the chaos, Abkhazia declares independence from Georgia. That set off a really brutal war. Fast forward to 2008, another conflict in the region basically cemented that separation. These moments are absolutely key to understanding Abkhazia's claim to be its own nation today.
So after all these years of acting like an independent country, where does Abkhazia actually stand on the world stage? Well, that answer completely depends on who you ask. The international community is, and I mean this, wildly divided. Let's start with the countries that say yes. Out of almost 200 members of the United Nations, how many do you think officially recognize Abkhazia as a sovereign nation? The number is 5. Just 5. That's it. A very small club, including Russia, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, who have formal diplomatic relations with them. But on the flip side, for practically everyone else, we're talking the United States, the entire European Union, China, the map looks the same as it always has. In their eyes, Abkhazia isn't a country at all, but a breakaway region that, legally, is still part of Georgia.
Okay, so why? Why this overwhelming rejection? Why are so many nations so reluctant to just say, okay, welcome to the club? Well, it's not just a random decision. There are some major international principles getting in the way.
It really boils down to 4 big concerns. First up is territorial integrity. This is a huge one. It's the idea that you can't just change a country's borders by force. Second, there's a serious fear of precedent. World leaders worry that if they recognize Abkhazia, it'll open the floodgates for other separatist groups around the world, creating a kind of domino effect. And of course, all of this is tangled up in a web of complex geopolitical alliances and power plays. But listen, this isn't just some abstract political game. Being stuck in this diplomatic limbo has real, everyday consequences for the people who live there. So, what does it actually feel like to be a citizen of a country that most of the world pretends doesn't exist?
Diplomatically, it's like living in 2 separate realities. In those 5 countries that recognize it, Abkhazia can act like any other nation. It's got embassies, official ambassadors, the whole shebang. But everywhere else, they have to rely on informal representative offices and quiet, unofficial contacts. Their voice on the world stage is incredibly limited.
And this is where it gets super personal. Imagine having a passport that's basically useless in 99% of the world. Travel documents from Abkhazia just aren't accepted in most places, which puts a major restriction on people's ability to travel, work, or study abroad. Then you've got the economy. I mean, think about it. Without formal recognition, it's next to impossible to join international trade organizations, use global banking systems, or get big companies to invest. It leads to some pretty serious economic isolation.
And finally, this unrecognized status blocks them from pretty much every international club you can think of. We're talking about everything from having a seat at the United Nations, to getting loans from the World Bank, to even competing under their own flag in the Olympics or the World Cup. It's a total shutdown from the global community.
So, why are we spending all this time on one small contested territory? Because Abkhazia's story isn't really just about Abkhazia. It's a perfect real-world example that helps us understand a much bigger concept in international law.
The official term for this whole mess is limited recognition. It's this strange state of being where you exist in practice, you govern yourself, but you're denied in principle by almost everybody else. And as we've seen, that leads to the deep practical isolation we've been talking about. Abkhazia is maybe the textbook example of this today.
If there's one big takeaway from all of this, it's this. You can check all the boxes of being a state. You can have a government, an army, control your own land, but that gives you absolutely no guarantee that the rest of the world is going to play along. Which leaves us with one final big question to chew on. If a state can govern itself, if it functions as a country day to day, but the wider world just refuses to acknowledge it, then what truly makes a country? Is it about self-rule, or is it really all about getting that stamp of approval from everyone else?